Hi, this is Eric Schlein. You are listening to the Intelligent Investing Podcast, and today we have on Alex Gramatzki onto the show. He runs, or at least works at the ICM Crescendo Music Royalty Fund. Now, it's a team of people, right? It's not just you.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
a team of people. We're a pretty big team too because ICM Asset Management is actually a fund that has over a billion under management now. So we have a pretty diversified team of portfolio managers and
Doing all different kinds of strategies. It's not just music, or
doing different types of strategy from real estate to venture capital to now music royalties.
now. Tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from? Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and that's where I
You're
am.
still in Calgary, yeah? Okay,
Yeah, I am still in Calgary
okay.
and kind of settled down here, but I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions and essentially my entire career. Probably have over 50 under my belt by now, and probably done over 700 million in transaction
You've done
volume to
50
date
mergers.
for 50 acquisitions or mergers. So probably about five or six mergers, and then the rest were acquisitions.
And these were in like public, private businesses. What was that involved in?
Yeah, sometimes it was public entities and then
Okay.
taking them private. In other instances, it was private transactions acquiring assets, and in other instances, it was acquiring companies.
Huh. Seems like a lot. You're a young guy. That seems like you have a lot under your belt already.
Well, I am 31 now, and I don't know about a lot because I think that's relative. Because,
Okay.
think of some other people around the world, like the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, and I can't even imagine what their day is like or what they've gone through, and
Yeah.
them having to testify. But yeah, it's been great, but it's I've been fortunate because I also had a chance to go to the Wharton School and do an executive management program there, and I was the youngest person to graduate from that executive management program, which was a 2 year long program.
Interesting. Did you feel that helped you with M&A?
Oh, 100%
Yeah.
it did. I think Wharton's probably the best finance school in the world. So yeah, got great professors, great models, great insights. Learned a lot on that side of things and just deepened my skill set.
What was the biggest thing you got out of being at that school?
The network of people because on the executive management program there was CEOs, CFOs, all sorts of people, and being able to connect and talk with them and be on teams with them and just really dive deep into what often I don't get in Calgary necessarily, but these people come from all around the world to meet there and learn there and to get better there.
Interesting. So how did you get into working with music royalties? We did. I really wanted to have you on the show. We had done an episode, probably a little over a year ago now, with Jean Schwenda, and we did a thing on Mills Music Trust, which is a over-the-counter traded, music royalty trust. Majority owner is Paul McCartney, interestingly enough. So this is interesting for someone who's literally just running a fund doing music royalties. Like, how does that come about? That's such a niche thing.
Yeah, well, first off, I listened to that podcast and it was great to hear, the returns that they've been able to generate for their investors for that music royalty trust. So they did really well. And given my M&A background, I was always looking at opportunities and where there's certain arbitrage situations and also where there's growth because I believe you should always be in a growth sector because this way you don't have to get everything 100% right because the growth will kind of take care of some of the variables for you. So it's almost a risk mitigation strategy to be in a growing sector.
Mhm.
And I was already well into real estate and oil and gas and been involved in renewable energy and had public company stock holdings, had angel investments, and been on that side. But given where the market is now in 2020, um, and actually even in 2017, people started talking about a bubble and when that was collapsed. But it feels like people are still talking about it, and we're 12 years into it now. And I was really looking for something that was going to be great on the passive income side And streaming platforms like Spotify were growing, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora. Satellite radio was already, at its peak probably at that point in time. And that's how music royalties came up because there was just opportunities in the space, and I thought it was a great asset class to get into. And as I was looking into it more and more and more, I thought it's something that everyone should have in their portfolio because you kind of own these rights for life of the artist plus 70 years. So it's really long term, and you don't require any capital after the acquisition. So once you're kind of invested in it, you can get dividends, for your lifetime. Yeah.
Huh. And how are you looking? Go through. Can you go through actually walk us through your process of how you would actually evaluate a royalty stream of a song? What is your research process and then your evaluation process? Like, take us through that.
Yeah, so usually it's someone or a label or a production company or an artist or a songwriter that's looking to sell. And let's just say if it's a songwriter, they usually have written multiple songs and they're not
Okay.
looking to sell just one song. They're looking to sell a catalog of songs or
Mm-hmm.
their portfolio of songs. And what we then have to do is analyze each song because we're essentially buying the catalog from them. And each song also generates revenue from a different revenue stream, such as I mentioned, Spotify could be one,
Yeah.
YouTube could be another, iTunes or Apple Music could be another. So we have to evaluate each revenue stream, and that gets very cumbersome. And that's why I think you're seeing larger companies, like there's one in the UK called Hypnosis that are acquiring larger catalogs because it is such a heavy diligence process. So we actually focus on acquisitions that are between the 100,000 to 5 million range.
Mm-hmm.
And and why we're able to focus on this is because we actually use a lot of data analytics and machine learning to try and analyze some trends and forecast future royalty streams.
Okay.
And if you were to do this by hand, it would be very, very cumbersome because one song can generate revenue from 139 or 140 plus sources. And imagine trying to evaluate what each of those revenue sources is going to look like. So radio, you might only get really 3 years of radio play out of that. So if you're in the third year, you don't want to be putting a high multiple um, to that revenue stream. But something like YouTube and Spotify, you can maybe put a higher multiple to that. So what we really have to do is analyze each revenue stream for each song and then do that for the entire catalog. And that's why we use a lot of data analytics and machine learning
Huh.
to do some forecasting.
How did people do this like 30, 40 years ago before YouTube?
Before YouTube,
Was it?
uh,
Would you say it was easier when you was it just radio mostly, and that was the main distribution, and was it easier to model?
well, actually, I think in the past, people were focused on buying hits and how can they revive those hits and what can they do when they acquire a song and can they place it into, a commercial
Okay.
or, can they create some sort of publishing deal or what can they do with the catalog that they acquired and the songs that are in that catalog to generate more revenue. I don't know if people on 30 years ago were necessarily looking at it from a cash flow perspective. I think you really needed to
Okay.
be very actively managing songs. But
Interesting. Um. So then today you're really looking at, okay, what's the future value of these revenue streams? Would you say that with the growth of streaming, Spotify and Pandora and YouTube and all of that, is the are the royalty streams going up simply because of the growth in those platforms?
I would say yes, but you have to look at it at a song by song basis and
Okay.
also how long that song is. Like, if you've had a really hit song, if you ever had a hit song and you're in maybe the second year of that song being a hit, well, there's a high likelihood in the third year you might have a drastic decline, and it doesn't matter how much growth there is in the market,
Yeah.
and you might have a big decline. But if you have a song that's, eighth year out or 10th year out from just being very stable, yeah, you're gonna actually see growth in those songs for things that are steady because the platforms are generating more revenue. So one song that we've looked at, is that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song, right? That
Okay.
that everyone
Yep.
kind of that kind of everyone has, and that one's
Do
been
you do you
seeing
own that?
growth. No, we passed on that one. That one was really competitive, and that's another thing you have to look at is how well known are these songs? Are people paying for the name, or are they paying for the actual revenue stream? And that's why we focus on, I'm going to call it some of these smaller catalogs, where it is mostly a revenue stream evaluation on that side of things.
So you pass on that one, and so what had you say? Okay, I think this is overvalued, or I don't think this meets our hurdle. Like, I know you do machine learning, but I mean, is there some specific hurdle? Like, you think you want to be able to do at least X return, and also wouldn't the and maybe this is where machine learning comes in, but I would just imagine that depending on the inputs, right? Is this going to be on YouTube for 20 years? Is this going to be popular for 5 years? You tinker the growth rate by 1% over the next 60, 70 years. I feel these little tweaks is going to drastically change the value of those revenue streams. So how are you looking at that?
Yeah, so what we look at is we actually pull data from 7 different sources. And each source gives us different inputs. Like one of them will, for example, give us like the historical stream count from Spotify.
Okay.
Another one will give us the social media trends for that artist and for those tracks. Another one is like, well, actually not just the artist, but was there a featured artist in that? And is that featured artist or the artist going on tour? Do they have any tours scheduled? Are they releasing new songs, or are they kind of done releasing songs? Like, are they much, much older? How many songs have they released in total? Because if somebody's listening to one of their popular songs, it's highly likely that there's going to be a playlist with some of their other songs.
Mm.
How many playlists is that song on? So you're right. There's many things that are factored into a song, not just the revenue streams, but all of those, I'm going to say, intangible variables also.
Could you walk us through an actual situation, like an actual song you looked at and what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd
So
be cool.
so prior to the fund starting, so we started acquiring stuff in 2017. We bought a catalog from a songwriter, and one of the biggest producing songs was a Shakira song, La La La, and he had a partial interest in the song, and we had projected and assumed that Shakira would be, should be in future performances, and the songs would have spikes and that side of things. And the La 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 song was also associated to the World Cup in 2014. And we assumed that we could, yes, buy it on historical revenue, but also it made sense from a potential future growth perspective. Every 4 years, it might see a spike, or every time Shakira goes on tour. And I think it was that acquisition included 109 songs. So that was just one of the songs. And then, as you might recall, in the last Super Bowl, Shakira ended up being the halftime show performer. So we didn't expect that, but as you can imagine, so we saw massive spikes for that song being played, and that's one of the things that we would have taken into consideration. But we can't exactly project what the increase is going to be for these one-off events.
Yeah.
So how our fund is structured is essentially that we do distributions where we target 8 to 12%, and then when those types of events would occur, we would be doing special distributions to investors, because it's more of an income fund than a growth fund on that side of things.
Interesting. So what are you working on now? What's like the most interesting stuff you're working on right now?
Oh, we see about 1 to 2 opportunities a day. So
A
a lot of
day.
that's, yeah, a day, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of activity and a lot of deal flow that we're getting. I'm not saying we're being picky, because we want to, honor every deal and everyone that sends us an opportunity, but we're definitely looking at all of those opportunities and then choosing the ones that make the most sense for our investors and our fund, and are analyzing those, and then are gonna make offers on the ones that that fit the best. And sometimes we make an offer and it's way too low, because that song or that catalog has significant upside opportunity, which we're not necessarily in a position to take advantage of right now. It's like some of the other labels, and they say, hey, no, I expect a little bit more for this, because I expect you to take my songs and do something great with them. I expect you to market them. I expect you to, revive them, and I'm not willing to part with a multiple of revenue. And in other instances, they say, you know what, yeah, this stuff's been kicking around for a long time. I get your valuation, I get your offer, and we've backed it up, and we'll acquire those. And that's kind of what we're doing is just evaluating songs every day, looking for deals, and then also raising capital for our fund, which is a Canadian fund, um, which also differentiates us because, as far as I know, I don't think there's any Canadian funds focusing on music royalties that essentially retail investors can invest into. There's some funds in Canada that have pension money behind them, but as far as I know, there isn't any that just, your average Joe can invest into.
Yeah. Now, when you say you're looking at these deals, every day, is there a certain set of criteria where you can look at something and in 2 minutes, you're going to take a pass? Or are you actually, spending the entire day analyzing every single deal?
Well, I'll say the past one is if we know right away that the deal is going to be outside of our deal range. So if it's going to be much greater than $5 million, right? Because our niche is the 100,000 to 5 million. So that's a quick pass
Okay.
for us.
And these are
But
all
that's
coming to
not.
you? These are people coming to you? You're not looking for them?
Yeah, these are people coming to us,
Okay.
brokers coming to us, opportunities coming to us. But we are looking for them because we are reaching out to brokers and to artists and to labels.
So
And
there are brokers that just, like, they specialize in brokering music royalties too?
correct. And
Huh, that's interesting.
there's actually a platform also where people can buy royalties. And that platform's called Royalty Exchange. So, but those are auctions, so we
Okay.
can take a look at those too.
So
And
you participate in auctions?
we haven't with our fund,
Okay.
no. And the Fresh Prince of Bel Air one is actually was one of the ones that was on auction,
Okay.
and we didn't participate in the auction. And auctions have you almost have buyer's remorse if you win an auction. That doesn't mean that you can't go on auction and find good deals. And I don't know who's necessarily all buying on the other side. But on that Royalty Exchange platform, they also have a lot of offerings on like the secondary market, so we can also evaluate each one of those, and if we wanted to make offer on those, and people can either accept or reject those. And I think they have like over 180 plus offerings that are not by auction, but where people kind of set a list price, and you can either buy in there or not, or we can submit an offer and then see if it gets accepted. But we haven't gone that path yet because we like the off-market deals better.
It's like real estate.
Exactly.
Interesting. So has the industry changed at all since got into looking at music royalties? Is this ever evolving in the way you would look at these royalty streams based off technology and anything else going on?
Absolutely. So as you can imagine, collecting revenues from YouTube is getting more and more sophisticated because people are coming up with blockchain technologies, right? So you're able to recover some plays that in the past were unlicensed, or artificial intelligence is getting better, so they're
Hold on.
identifying
Before
songs.
you continue, what do you mean by that? That you're collecting things that were unlicensed in blockchain? You just said a lot, so let's like
Okay.
break this down a little bit.
Okay. So sorry, let's
So,
unpack that.
yeah, please.
Yeah, so let me rewind a little bit. So somebody posts a video on YouTube, and it
Okay.
and it uses a song for which we have an ownership interest. Well, YouTube actually pays a royalty to a collection society usually, or an administrative company, and there's many of those out there. There's over 150 collection societies around the world that all collaborate and work together to get the rightful owners their money. Because, imagine a song being played in Dubai in a restaurant. How is that money or that revenue from that royalty ever going to get to a Canadian songwriter? So these agencies all kind of work together and they collaborate and they remit royalties. And what then happens is, as an owner, you essentially get, you know, a check or a direct deposit into your account. So given that a lot of people are, let's say, on YouTube, for example, and people are uploading videos, they might use a song in one of the videos.
Okay.
Well, YouTube is also responsible for making sure that royalties are collected on that side of things.
So it actually
So,
costs. So if I upload a video, right, I'm just hanging around in my kitchen and I have a song playing in my kitchen while I'm uploading the video and it gets some downloads. YouTube is liable for the royalty of that song in my video? Is that what you're saying?
So I wouldn't go as far as saying liable, okay? But
Well, why
definitely,
not? Isn't that what it is? If YouTube is paying a royalty on a song that I uploaded and I'm not the one paying it?
yeah, the only reason I say I don't want to
Okay.
use the word liable is because I don't know the legal language.
Got it.
Like,
Okay. Well,
I
YouTube
don't,
YouTube is paying a few pennies the fact that
yes,
I uploaded a song.
correct.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and that's why, you either have an ad after a few videos, or, if you monetize it, or if you are in the paid subscription, they then have to remit some of that revenue.
So the
And
ad is paying partially for that royalty of some song in the background in your kitchen.
exactly.
That's so interesting.
Exactly. And each streaming platform actually has different payout rates, and that's what, some of these global collection societies do, and some of these administrative firms do, is they negotiate with each platform how much should be being paid per stream, essentially. So just to give you an example,
Yeah.
like for YouTube, it's like 0.00164 per stream. Spotify, it's 0.00318 per play. Pandora, it's 0.0015 per stream. And like that's not across the board because it can also be different by jurisdiction.
Okay.
Um, but for example, Facebook now announced that they're gonna start having video and music on their platform, and TikTok has now announced the same thing, and Snapchat has now announced the same thing. So there's three new revenue sources for which I don't know what the payout rates are yet, but there's something being negotiated with some of these administration firms where now you're going to be able to, as an artist, recover money from TikTok, Facebook, and Snapchat, which previously you weren't getting money from, and there's billions of users on those platforms, so that's going to be additional revenue going to rights holders.
Hmm. That's fascinating. So do you find that is it sort of this, is it an oscillating, what am I trying to say? Is the growth in revenue from royalty streams, is it as a whole still like that industry, that market still growing, or is it just sort of kind of rotating from one platform to the other? So as TikTok gets more popular and something else gets less popular, that's sort of transferring over, or is the entire market growing still?
Yeah, so it's kind of the theory of is there, cannibalization happening, right? So like,
Yeah.
when people go from Coke to Diet Coke, are you actually getting more people drinking Coke, or just people switching from Coke to Diet Coke?
Yeah.
And I would say that there is growth happening because, some people never uploaded videos in the past. And I think TikTok is a prime example. And all of a sudden you see all sorts of older people uploading TikTok videos, right, and inserting music. So I
Mm-hmm.
think in that regard, you definitely have a growing market of more people using content or using video in their content. So I think the pie is actually getting bigger. And you also see that in the number of subscribers that Spotify is onboarding. And you're also seeing that in what's happening with the accessibility of internet is you're having a lot of emerging and developing countries now only starting to get into these platforms and only starting to actually start to get into the paid subscription. Spotify entered India, for example. It's a much lower subscription price. We can imagine as the household income starts growing, they're probably going to increase their subscription price just like every other platform kind of does after some time.
Right. Huh. Now, if someone wants to do this on their own, is it really impossible? Or I mean, can someone spend the time to evaluate music royalties on their own without a big team and data analytics and all that?
So I would go as far as saying, even if you're an institutional investor, I would hand you over our entire playbook, and I would say it's still very hard. There's a lot that goes into it,
Yeah.
based on how the rights are owned. You can have, writer share, you can have publishing share, you can own the copyright, you can own the masters, and the payout rates for each one are different. And also, like, um, if somebody else has an ownership interest, you have to pay attention to if you want to be creating these sync opportunities is what they're called. Like if you want to place your song into a movie, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you have to own certain rights in order to get everyone to sign off on that side of things. So it is super complex on that side of things. But given that there's a ton of data available out there, You can do a lot with machine learning and data analytics. And I would say this is why even sophisticated, larger institutional investors that are in the space and have been in the space for 20 plus years don't really focus on buying catalogs that are below 5 million because it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to evaluate each single song in a portfolio of songs.
So are let's say you were not working at this fund, and because like if I said, if you could invest in a royalty fund, how would you look at things? And I'm sure you'd say your fund. So assuming that your fund was off the table, right, or you had to invest in another fund, let's just say that you had to invest in another fund that wasn't your fund, what would you be looking for that the fund was doing? Because the average person, they're gonna hear someone like you and you sound like you know what you're doing, and they'll look at a fund and they'll say, we like to distribute this percentage of income, or here's a nice 8% or whatever it is, right? How do you know who actually knows what they're doing, or who's a good music royalty investor and who's just maybe average?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the first point is what's their strategy? And I think some people they can build incredible teams and they have a strategy of, hey, we're gonna buy hits and we're gonna pay a lot to own those hits, but that's okay because we're gonna be able to monetize those hits. We're gonna put them in the next Coca-Cola commercial, right? We're gonna place them in the next James Bond movie. And it doesn't even matter what we pay because we're gonna recover that revenue from placing them into that movie or in that commercial. And we're gonna get an incredible premium off of that. And not just that, once people listen and hear that song in that movie, they're gonna go back home and they're gonna play it again and it's gonna revitalize. And that's a strategy that I think some people that are really in the space and maybe have a deep entertainment background can pull off. Now, that's one strategy and one growth strategy, and I say that's a growth approach. That's not necessarily an income or steady income approach. That's, you get these big tickets
So
and
that would be like you owning the Lion Sleeps Tonight. It goes into the movie Lion King, and all of a sudden it's a hit all over again. That's
exactly,
like the
right?
jackpot. Okay.
Exactly, right? And that's if that's what you want to bet on is that team to do that and for them to do that every year or every other year, right, with the portfolio of songs that they own, well then yeah, that's a strategy. And then you should be betting on that team and how connected are they in the entertainment space, not just the
Okay.
music space, but also the entire entertainment
And see if
space.
they have a track record in doing that. Like, are you doing that once a year consistently?
Exactly. And
Okay.
and so for us, we're not doing that,
Yeah.
right? So we're not trying to say we're gonna, be in the next Lion King movie, or we're not gonna be in the next Coca-Cola commercial. So
Really, you're
so if
not
you look at us,
Shakira's not going to be in the next Lion King movie, huh?
yeah, who knows? Maybe she is. Yeah, yeah, good point. We should think about
Might
how
want to
that plays
explore
out.
that.
Yeah.
I just want to say right now, for the record, if there's a Shakira song in the next Lion King movie, I'm going to take some credit for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No, good call. And but on our side, right, we're really focused on steady income and
Yeah.
forecasting. So what you want there is you want to have a great team that is good at evaluation and at private equity and portfolio management
Mhm.
and historical analysis versus, if you have people that are focused on creative and artists, like they don't need to be great at managing historical cash flow. They or manage or understanding historical revenue. They can just say, hey, I know I can place this in the next Coca-Cola commercial, and we're going to get $1 million for it. So it doesn't matter if we paid $500,000 for these rights,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't matter that the song only generated $10,000 last year or $100,000 last year. Like that kind of becomes irrelevant. So some of these metrics can become irrelevant depending on your strategy. But for us, we have a team that is full of like CFAs and certified investment managers and portfolio managers and data analysts. Like some of the people that are helping us with the data analytics were previously at Facebook. They were at Uber. They were at Amazon, right? Like and that's the type of people that we are recruiting to help us with this type of evaluation, not just um, random people that that don't know what they're doing in the space.
Yeah. How long have you guys been running this fund for?
So this fund officially launched, I'm gonna say 2 months ago was our first
Oh,
acquisition
wow. Okay.
for the fund. But like I said, we've been acquiring music royalties since 2017, so 3 years now, really. And we ended up in a partnership with ICM Asset Management. So Crescendo Royalty Corporation started acquiring music royalties in 2017. I co-founded that company with Reese Terode, and then we entered into partnership with ICM Asset Management, and we pursued the fund strategy alongside with them. And we met the managing director or one of the managing partners over there. His name is David Vanka, and we connected there. And he thought that this is something that was really interesting for what would fit into their current investor base, and that's how it kind of came to be. And then we spent the last year really trying to get everything organized and going through diligence and making sure everything was set up to launch this fund and get registered here in Canada so we can start raising capital and making acquisitions.
Very interesting. And for investors in your fund, I mean, how does that work? What what kind of distribution are they getting? Are you growing the net asset value as well? What's your fees? How does that all work?
Yeah, so what we do is we essentially in the first year, we do a 6.5% distribution. In the first year being this year, just because we're going to have some lag from raising capital to doing acquisitions and sitting on capital in their interim and figuring out exactly how the capital raise goes. But then after that, we're targeting 8% distributions to investors.
Okay.
And then reinvesting the balance to kind of grow net asset value, because there's going to come a time when some of these royalties do start to decline, right? So you want to reinvest in order to offset that decline and acquire more royalties that are growing, that are benefiting from that side of things. So the song might be growing for the next 3-5 years, but in 50 years from now, there's going to be a decline of that song. So we do have to do some reinvestment to grow net asset value to acquire new songs, and so we're targeting overall 8 to 12%. And like I said, we're going to do special distributions, and also when there's these one-off events that are going to generate some extra surplus cash flow. And I don't want to get into the fee structure right now, because I think that's also more for like some of our I guess licensed dealers to talk about, and our advisors to talk about. And I'm not licensed to sell securities or anything on that side of things, right? So I don't want to get into any of that stuff, and I didn't run any of this stuff by legal counsel prior, so I just don't want to go
then we won't go there then.
Yeah.
Is it kosher to ask if people are interested, a website they can go to check out more of what you're doing?
Yeah, so the website is actually really easy. It's just www.musicroyaltyinvesting.com.
Okay.
So we secured that domain name so people can, if they want to invest in music royalties, go on musicroyaltyinvesting.com.
That's great.
Yeah.
And would listeners know any of the songs that you currently own in your fund?
So one of our first acquisitions was a very strategic acquisition that we got at a really good multiple, though. And the reason I see it was a strategic acquisition that we got a good multiple is because we actually ended up buying some cover songs too.
Okay.
So some of the cover songs would have, included some of the Avicii songs, and it would definitely be songs that they've heard. 100% people would have heard these songs. And I don't want to go on our website right now because I don't want to be making a ton of noise here in the background while we're chatting. But we have a playlist also that investors can follow, so they can see what songs we're acquiring, and they can listen to those songs on the Spotify playlist, and then also make money while they're listening to music. So that's kind of a neat little perk. So if you invest with us, just download the playlist, play the music, have it at home, and you can tell your friends, hey, I own this song, right? Or whatever it is. And it also becomes a legacy asset on that side, right? You can tell your kids, hey, guess what, kids, we own this song, and every time you play it at home, and you can tell your friends and all this other stuff. So yeah.
That's great. Well, cool. Anything else you think I should know or I should have asked you that we haven't covered?
I'll tell you another little neat perk that we have on our website here is,
please.
if you want to own a song, we have this little submit a song button. So we'll do our, on a reasonable efforts basis or best efforts basis to submit a song that you want to own, and we'll go and try and track that down, and we'll try and track that down from either the songwriter or the artist or the label or the producer, and we'll try to at least buy a partial interest of the song, if we can't buy the full interest. So because we can look up who owns the songs and stuff like that too, and if people really want to own one, we can try and hunt that down for them.
Cool. That's a cool feature. Fun little perk. All right, well, Alex, it was great to have you on. And if people have any more questions for you, is your contact info on the website?
I believe it is. Yeah, it should be on the website, but the contact info for our team definitely is on there. And
are you guys on like Twitter or anything like that?
We're pretty much on LinkedIn
right
now, and then we just have our website and our advisors that are helping us with marketing this, and our team.
Okay, great. Well, we will have all of that in the show notes for listeners.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the only other person I want to, mention also is one of our advisors, I guess, Devo Harris. And he is a 3-time Grammy Award-winning producer and songwriter. And he actually signed and produced EGOT winner for John Legend. And he wrote songs for Kanye West, Britney Spears, Aretha Franklin, and a bunch of other people. So
what Britney Spears song did he write?
Oh, I gotta ask him.
Come on,
yeah.
Wasn't Baby One More Time, was it?
I don't know. I gotta ask him.
These are gonna be, Alex. These are gonna be questions that people are gonna ask you. You mentioned these artists are gonna be, well, what song was it?
Yeah, good call. And you know what? Maybe we'll put that in the FAQ section.
Yeah. Please. And I'd like to have an answer before this is published, so then I can also put a little blurb in the show notes of what songs some of these cool songs were that this guy wrote.
Yeah.
His name is Devo?
Yeah, Devo Harris. Yeah, is what he.
It's a cool name.
Goes by.
That's a cool name. That is like that. That's the name of someone who would write music too.
Exactly.
Well, Alex, it was really great to have you on. Please, I wish you the best of success with this fund.
Well, thank you so much, and great being on here.
For sure. All right, take care.
Thanks.